Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this beautiful Self-Realization and Inner Child podcast this morning again with my dear friends, James and Nadine. Welcome to the show this morning.
Hello.
Well, it's not morning where you are.
No, it's not. It's 4:00 in the afternoon where we are, isn't it, James? It's gorgeous.
It is, yeah. It's just sun's just about, got an hour to go down and beautiful afternoon here.
Yeah, so it's, sun rising here. So, it's early. It's 8:00 Saturday morning. So thank you for coming on and for having this discussion again with us. This is episode 19. Is that right, Nadine?
It is 19. Wow.
Right? It's amazing how much conversation you can have about one topic, the inner child, and how important it is to connect with your inner child in healing your life, in creating your life, in moving forward. There's so many reasons of why we could probably talk about it till the end of day. So here we are today. We wanted to come back again, bring James back, and answer some questions that have come up because of our last podcast that we did. So before we go on, we want to acknowledge our sponsor for this show, which is Susan Axelrod, whatwillyourlegacybe.com. And you can find Susan on YouTube as well, where she has the Confidence Zone. And she helps women in the second half of life step into their confidence and really get in touch with their inner truth so that they can leave a legacy that they're proud of. And so she is the sponsor for this show, and we appreciate you so much, Susan. Yeah. And when you're listening to this show, please subscribe to this channel. And also when you're going to go over to Susan's channel and check her out, subscribe to her channel too. And when you're checking all of us out on Facebook, give us a comment, give us a thumbs up, give us, your feedback of what it is that moved you in today's conversation. Because if you're listening to this, it's a divine appointment, right? This was something that you manifested in your life so that you can hear exactly what it is that you needed to hear today. Have you ever had that experience where you open the book and you just look at the text right there and it's like, oh, wow, I needed to see exactly this. Or the email comes in, or the person comes in or calls and says exactly what you needed to hear right now. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, it happens to me with the songs on the radio. They talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, oh, I needed to hear that. So it's the ones that I can tune into, they pick you. The word comes up or a melody and I go, oh, that was meant to be heard. So that's how it happens to me. What about you, James? How does it happen for you?
Yeah, I think it's just being open. When you're feeling open, these synchronicities come in. Whether you're going for a walk and there's something you read on a billboard or anything, it can come in multiple ways and surprising ways.
It's so true. This is a little bit off topic, but when you said billboard, this is what sparked this. I met a new friend recently, and she was telling me about when she was in love with a person and the person passed, and then she was deeply grieving that person, and all of a sudden her guides and intuitive, she was all of a sudden presented with information about walk-ins. And she said, then a whole new world opened up. But she said, all of a sudden, she says, I was driving down the highway, and the same billboard that has been there all the time, all of a sudden now had in big, bold letters, walk-ins, welcome, right? And she said, it just really, it's like that. The universe is communicating to us like that. And so maybe that is a good place to start with our inner child today.
Yeah, perfect.
So how did you, James, how did you first connect? How did you
Yeah,
connect your inner child when you started doing this work?
sure. Well, I was very much a spiritual seeker. Still, well, in a way, that's still a part of my energy. I love spirituality, but I was kind of bypassing quite a lot of emotional aspects of myself, and just wanting to go for the samadhi, or the calm, clear state. And I realized that I couldn't really go on just avoiding those things. So I went to have some therapeutic work, which was called parts work. And they looked at in individual energies that are coming through at certain times, and they included inner child, the masculine and feminine. The first energy that came through was a very protective energy, actually, that was kind of guarding the inner child that came up around. So I had to connect with that inner protector first. So that was a part of me that I had to connect there. And then he kind of opened the gate to the inner child. So it was an interesting process that someone was almost guarding the inner child, because there was an energy that wanted to protect that, because he was vulnerable. And then the first time I met my inner child, I was guided through a meditation, and I was guided to find a safe, comfortable space where he liked to go, and that was in the garden by an old beech tree. And he kind of just appeared in my consciousness, sitting there, sort of playing with the sticks and twigs like he used to do. And I was able to communicate to him very softly and gently, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And it was quite a magical process. It was a guided meditation, as I say, and that was my first real contact in communication with him, I guess. Yeah.
So, and when you started out talking about how you connected at first, and you said in the beginning you were wanting to bypass the emotions, bypass the feeling part, and would you say that that was actually what helped with the deeper connection and healing part of your nature, the feeling part?
Yeah, sure.
The emotions that you were looking to bypass, like I don't really want to do this, I just want to go straight over here to the joy, and I just want to be over here in the joy. I don't want to deal with these dark, heavy emotions, and this moon energy, and the darkness and the heaviness, and any grief or any pain. I don't want to. I want to go over here and play and have fun. And so was that realization when you started doing that deep inner work, and then started diving into the emotional aspects of it, that is actually what joined you?
Yeah, I think it was there was such a comparison between my kind of spiritual life and my human life, that I was able to sit in meditation and find a way through to some sort of peace, but I couldn't make relationships work or work, so it was like everything was working in one sphere, but it wasn't really. There was something that along the spiritual path, it needs to include everything, and including all the mess, all the mud, all the dirty, dark stuff that you don't really want to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just kind of got to a point where I just felt, okay, I need to look further than I am. A very kind of direct. I think sometimes the masculine wants to get to A to B
Right.
as soon as possible without any
Yeah.
interference, and
Yeah.
the A to B was sort of from suffering to enlightenment or something, and
Yeah.
there was there was a lot in between. You know, there was a lot that I was avoiding, and I feel, you know, from that experience and from going deeper within my emotions, it's definitely less lopsided or imbalance. There's a feeling of more balance within my life.
So, thank you for being so open and vulnerable here. Do you feel safe talking to Nadine and me here in this space?
Yeah, I do. I like both of your energies. It's open and friendly, so it just feels it feels a safe space. I know a lot of people may be watching, but if I feel here and now, there
Mm.
feels a safety here. Yeah, for sure.
When you talked about uh, the the deeper dive that you did, that you had to be willing to go into that emotional part and the feeling nature and all of that. And what that is connected to, I feel, is the part of us that then becomes emotionally mature once we go through that process.
Mhm,
And then we are able to be there for ourselves emotionally.
mhm,
And we're also able to be there for our partners, not just our partners that are our husband or wife, but any partner, any soul
Mm.
partner. We're able to be there for them emotionally because we are available.
mhm,
We are
mhm,
available, and we have made ourselves available for ourselves first,
mhm,
which is where it begins. We have to start with the self.
mhm,
We have to be willing to look within. And the little boy or the little girl in you and in me that never received and got our emotional needs met from the time that we were children,
mhm.
that is an opportunity now that's coming up in this lifetime so that we can heal that and become our own inner parents.
Mm.
Would you say that's what happened?
Yeah, I feel it was. Yeah, it's also the holding. It feels like I'm holding space for myself primarily and for my inner child, and if I can do that in a way that's constant and safe, then I can do that for another. So I think if there's a
Yeah.
reflect, that reflects outwards. So if I'm able to take good care of myself, my inner world, my physical, spiritual, emotional world, then there's more likelihood that I can be there for another. And from that, then it just is a cycle, if feed a cycle that keeps feeding itself and the other, and the relationship, the friendships, the work, all aspects get fed by that. And I think that, it just needs to come, that needs to be the primary thing, being able to hold space for myself as
Yeah,
a
and
primary practice. Yeah.
holding the space is something
Yeah.
that
Mm.
is not norm. Someone has to be available for that space,
Hmm.
creating space, holding the space, and
Hmm.
the space to allow to anything to come up. Who knows what it's going to
Hmm.
be? There might be a very angry little boy or a little
Hmm.
girl that is just having a fit, and we have
Hmm.
to hold the space for that, right? What about you, Nadine? What about you?
It's really
How,
interesting that you say an angry little girl, because that's what I found.
yeah,
I was similar to as you both described, and I was striving for one emotion, trying to bypass all the others. I just wanted to be happy. That's all I wanted. And I was going for therapy, all kinds of different therapy, and people kept saying to me, you need to look back at your childhood. And I didn't want to. I'm an adult. I wanted to be an adult. I didn't want to go back there. Since learnt why I didn't want to go back there. But I kept getting this knock, knock, knock. Little memories were coming up, things were coming up that I hadn't recognized before. My little Nadine was saying, notice me. And she was stroppy and she was unhappy and she had temper tantrums and she was naughty. But she was not loved and not heard and really crying out. So, of course, that was the message that I needed to hear. Look after little Nadine. And I was very resistant. I didn't want to. But like you say, through being held in a safe place, as I say, went to various kinds of therapies and went through different kind of, had to connect with the right person, find the right place that I felt safe to actually do this work. Though I didn't realise it was work at the time, got to be honest. But when I found that right place, it all started to come up. It was quite a difficult process for me personally. I needed to be held. I needed someone to support me through that. I couldn't have done it on my own. And I think that's where we all help other people, don't we? It's very important that we now do this for other people too, because it's not, I don't know if it's possible even to do it on your own. I wouldn't have been able to. So having that guidance and having that place that I needed to feel safe for it to come up, and then to actually make friends with my little Nadine and actually tell her that I can. What was the revelation to me is that I could heal her pain. I didn't know that I could. I thought that's in the past, that's done, can't do anything about that. But the wonderful thing was that I could. And there was, well, I'll tell you very quickly, one of the sessions where she didn't want, we'd have the session, then I'd go back to my life. She didn't want to be left alone. She didn't want to be left because I was doing that almost weekly. Spend a bit of time with her and then go away. She wanted to be with me. So through, like you say, a lovely guided meditation, everything, I actually put her in my pocket and took her with me. So she's with me all the time. And that's what she wanted. That's what she needs. So we are, like you say, that cycle. We're totally connected. And I can't put her away. I don't want to put her away. She's part of me. I'm part of her. So it's wonderful to have that. And just to feel, as I say, I can heal the past, but I'm also healing more than my inner child. I'm healing my ancestors. I'm healing so much pain that was there before just by this wonderful work that we do. We are healing so much, aren't we? So yeah, very grateful for my little knocking, stroppy little tantrums.
It's wonderful to hear, the different awakenings and the realizations within each of us and our healing. When I started doing my inner child work pretty much at around the same time when I really got deep into my healing modality of emotional processing. And that was back in 2010, 2011, when I started really diving deep into that work. And then I developed the emotional core work and the emotional release work. And because I was the practitioner and I was the coach, I was at the same time then doing the healing work that was coming up for me at the time. And it was interesting because at that time I was living in my house and I had my mother was in the house with me. So it was really perfect because I would get triggered, right, by something my mother would do. And that would trigger an old wound. And then it brought it up to the surface. And my mother couldn't see it. She was just doing what she's always done. But it brought up the old childhood memories for me. And then I was able to, use the healing modalities and the journaling and how I process the old emotions, diving deep into the pain and writing it out and journaling it out and speaking it out. I was able to go through that pain and always looking what the mirror was showing me, what the mother is saying to me. And then how does she feel? How does little Kornelia feel? How does she feel now? So vulnerable. And that was, so the mirror was right there. It was like a real-time, real school lesson, just how it is with life. Life is a school and we're the student and at the teacher at the same time. So it was that for me. And I remember when I sold my house and I was moving and I was on a walk and I went to, I was talking out loud to nature, which is a lot of times what I do. And when I decided that I was going to move to another town, I did go to the other town, and I had to fly there, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I found my new place. I put the deposit down for the apartment. I was going to fly back and then drive my U-Haul truck back to the new place. When the inner child said, after coming back, putting the deposit down and all of that, when I came back home, the inner child said, "Mommy, I don't want to go. I don't want to move," right? I don't want to go. I don't want to move. And it was clear from the time I was a little girl, we were always moving from town to town to town to town to town. And I was never listened to. I was never considered in any of those movings. It didn't matter that I was being dragged from school to school to school to school. It didn't matter. And so now all of a sudden the inner child is saying, "Mommy, I don't want to move." And so I heard it. And so then I said, "Okay, we're going to stay." So I then called the apartment people and said, I'm not going to take the apartment, and I wasn't for sure if they were going to give me my deposit back. I think I put down $1,000 or something like that. But I was willing to do that for the inner child, because I wanted to honor the inner child for the first time in that way.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, I feel like the love that we have for the inner child, and then healing the inner child from our past, will serve us in our relationships, in all kinds of relationships, in all ways. So that is why doing this work is so important. And do you find, James, that men have a more harder time with inner child work than women?
Yeah, I think I've always been quite a sensitive child, sensitive adult, but in culture that can be quite not really encouraged so much, So I think more layers of protection go around perhaps a boy or a man to not show that sensitivity, and that can cut off that route to the inner child. I think with my work to find the inner child, there was a lot of layers of protection, a lot of armor. So I think it's just a little bit more, it can be a bit more elusive to find. The journey is probably similar in many ways, but there may be more protection, but I think it's all on an individual basis. I think there could be women that have a lot of protection around it, and it depends on the childhood, of course.
Yeah, depending on the layers that are there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And I think that there can be there can be communication from the inner child, whether we know it, aware that it's the inner child or not. Before we do the inner child work, I can think back and say, that time when I was just really wanting to go and have fun, but I was too serious. That was the inner child that was saying, lighten up a bit. I want to go and play. I want to have fun. Or it could be the sort of imbalance, or the imbalanced nervous system that's going from one extreme to the other. And that's just the inner child looking for attention and looking for love. And there's all these signs that I could see in the past that were my inner child, but I wasn't able to communicate or to be there. So yeah, now I can be there and give that love, and there's just that two-way communication that's there, rather than the child just shouting or wanting something, because it's not just pain that the inner child wants. It wants to have fun, it wants to have joy, it wants to have pleasure, and the adult self can really put a downer on that a lot of the time. So yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot of, because another one of the questions that Nadine was asked was, how do we connect with nature? So you do a lot of nature walks and nature connections every day. I think closing this podcast today with how do we connect with nature, I think would be a nice discussion to go around. So, James, how do you connect with nature on a daily basis, or what is it that you do?
Well, in terms of connection, I go out every day and I go for a walk. I'm still a little bit self-conscious with tree hugging and that kind of thing. I do look around to see if there's anyone around. I think that the inner child and nature are so connected, obviously. When you're a child, you run down the hills, you hug a tree, you climb a tree, you're not worried about what other people are thinking. So connecting with the inner child is so important to allow that to come through. Now, when I hold workshops, that in itself is I feel quite self-conscious with that. So there's a journey through that, and then that's encouraging people to then lose their self-consciousness and then come into a more playful, more open, expansive way of being with nature. And tree hugging is one of those magical things that you can't put a logical reason why you can feel the tree, but once that logical adult self is kind of out the way or having a rest, then something comes through, and that's when magic happens. And I think the inner child can feel the magic of nature a lot more than the adult. The adult can say what tree name that is or what bird name that is, but it's the inner child that feels the magic, that can feel the energy. And a lot of my work is to help people reconnect with nature and their inner child sort of simultaneously, really. And yeah, I've got some wonderful photos I'd love to show you both sometimes of people just letting go, and you can see it in their face, their inner child coming through, and their inhibitions just dissolving in nature.
Oh, good. We should do it. We could do it. We could do that on Zoom. We could do it on Zoom, and then we can upload the video later. But that way, you can show us. We can have.
Sure.
We can do that. It won't be a live one like this, because, but definitely would love to see that.
Yeah.
So because again, like you said, it gives people permission to to see themselves there and connect. So, James, how do people find you on social media now?
Okay, yeah, well, my name is James Elphick, Elphick, and I run my business through Facebook, mainly with Space to Grow, which is the business page that's connected to my page. So that's the easiest way. And if you're interested I do online sessions as well, where I help people connect to their own nature, really. And we use symbols of nature, the elements, the air, the earth, fire, water, and the spirit, to help connect ourselves back to that deeper part. And the inner child comes in, and there's exploration of that. So yeah, it's a magical but also a very practical process that I can give. And yes, so just drop by on James Elphick on Facebook, and I'd be happy to chat more with you that way.
Good. I'm so glad that you're out there doing this magical work, this very natural. It's very natural. It's very organic. It's very soft, and it's very becoming. It's very nurturing. I'm very glad that you're doing that always.
Yeah.
Very much appreciative. Thank you for that, James.
Thank you for inviting me on, and it's lovely to be here with you both.
Good. And how about you, Nadine? How about you? What do you do to connect?
Yeah, I say all the time, one of my cliches is snatch a moment of calm. And because people say to me, oh, I hug a tree, but what am I supposed to be doing? And it's actually just having that pause, isn't it? That stop. Maybe listen, maybe look. It's that, like you say, James, children aren't trying to do anything. Adults always are. And I'm encouraging people all the time just to be, just to stop, look up, look down, look, connect. Like you said earlier, Kornelia, you talk to nature. One of my first experience of really connecting with nature was when I was actually letting go of my anger, my negativity. I was shouting at the sea. And I went, oh, this is powerful. Because nature helps us, doesn't it? It soothes us,
Yeah.
it calms us, it's there
Yeah.
for us. It's
Mhm.
happy to be shouted at, it's happy to help us. So that was my first experience. And then I started to go, actually now, you know, walking barefoot on the grass, you feel it. Just
Mhm.
give yourself that moment to just go, let something happen. It will happen without trying to do something. And I think that's the key, isn't it? Just be, let it come to you, be ready and willing and open to receive. And the trees will talk to you. You will get messages. You will get what you need. You will get your calming and your soothing. And you can feel, I mean, this time of year, I'm standing on the grass feeling the earth awakening. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's there for us if we just stop for a moment and tune in. And so it is what I always say to people, you don't have to do anything, but that sometimes is the hardest thing, isn't it? So just doing less is sometimes quite tricky, isn't it? But that's the key.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, for every single one of us right now, one of the, questions that I'm posing for all of us, what is it that we can do to simplify our life?
Yeah.
Really simplify our life, radical simplicity, so that we can really relax and just live simply and have more fun, be more connected to nature. Back in our old world paradigm, we were running around like crazy people, chasing, accumulating, purchasing, all these things. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we don't need all these things. We need
No, we
less.
don't.
We need
Yeah.
less, right? And so what we can do now in this year of 2022 to simplify our life even more. So that's a question that I'm posing
Yeah,
for
good
all
one.
of us to take deep into your inner self and ask yourself that when you're walking out in nature is, what is it that I can do to simplify my life, to make it more simple so that I can really enjoy myself more and play with nature.
Yeah, perfect. I love that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I'd love to hear what people are going to do. That would be lovely with some comments. And there is actually Kornelia and myself and James, hopefully soon, are part of the KS Media Group app.
Yeah.
And there is a perfect place there for journaling, isn't there? You
Yes.
can actually set up your own account and have private journaling there that is just for you to see. So that's a perfect place for people to actually work on that question you've just set, Kornelia, isn't it? What
Yeah.
can I do? How can I connect? And
I
then look
Yeah.
at what we do, back at how we actually develop. It's a perfect place. So download that KS Media Group app and get journaling.
Yeah, get journaling. And the universal question, I haven't posed the question yet in the app, but that's going to be coming. We're going to be seeing us talk about it on social media as well. I think this is an important question for humanity right now. All of us to ask that question, to align with radical simplicity in our life, that we are the willing conduits to experience that, and that we are willing to, make room in our life to live that way. And wherever you are not living that way, it's going to come up to the surface so that we can let it go.
Yeah.
Right? We can let it go. I mean, letting go has been one of our greatest spiritual practices in our awakening. Letting go. It's been so much healing. Letting go of who we thought we were.
Yeah.
Letting go of all the things that we were told and that we've been told by others, and all the things that are not serving us anymore. Letting go of all of that and letting go of even more. And every time when there's a trigger, there's something that's coming up to the surface, to be able to transcend and transmute that, to see what it is within me that I need to release and let go, so that I can become more of who I am. Right? And this is a perfect time to do that right now, especially moving into the spring of the beginning of the real new year. This is
Yeah.
so, the spring equinox, it's a beautiful time for renewal, and restoring. So it was a wonderful show today. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we'll see you again, beloved audience. We will come back and we'll continue on the conversation between the self-realization and the inner child. Okay. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.
Amazing. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.